Oh man, welcome to episode number 28 of the KFO show, Kayak Fishing Obsessed. If you love a kayak fishing or fishing in general, guys, you are in the right place. I got Fishing with Gramps. We're kind of combining our show tonight. So this is technically Fishing with Gramps live as well. And so we're pretty pumped about that. We're going to be talking about pre-spawn, spawn, post-spawn kayak bass fishing. And so I'm excited to see what the comments they're already on fire tonight. So if you're on the podcast, thank you for listening in. We're pushing 600 listens an episode on the podcast. So you are competing if you're listening in with the reach that we get on YouTube when it comes to the KFO show. So thank you so much. Real quick, tonight we got the Cast Cray giveaway. My man Rick over at Cast Cray. If anybody becomes a channel member, either my show or Fishing with Gramps show tonight, I will send you a $10 gift card to castcray.com. And so I'm going to be showing off one of their baits tonight that has been killing it. And so you might want to check that out. Remember, this is an interactive show. And so that's all the news I have. So let's go ahead and bring Gramps on. Fishing with Gramps. I mean, Two Brothers Fishing. I mean, JT Hickman. Oh, back to Fishing with Gramps again. Are you going through a midlife identity crisis the past 2 weeks? What's going on?
What are you talking about?
what is going on? What was that all about? That was like a flurry of identity crisis.
So, obviously I want to combine the channel with my brother and, bring him and be more interactive and do more stuff in the actual Fishing with Gramps show too. But one of the funny thing is if you had an actual URL instead of the at, channel name, you have that URL until your channel disappears. So even if I wanted to call the channel Two Brothers Fishing, I can't use that URL. It has to be youtube.com at Two Brothers Fishing. So we're going to set up a whole new channel. And what's going to happen is, and it's also partly because of tax purposes for my dumbassery for, when I have a boat, computers for editing, and you know how it is. You have to file all these things as far as your taxes go, and that's all under Fishing with Gramps. So what we decided to do was we're going to have a live stream that's going to be Two Brothers Fishing on the Fishing with Gramps channel for now, and then all of the content, the rod reveal, the rod, reels, baits, how-tos, all that stuff will live on Fishing with Gramps. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take Two Brothers Fishing, and that's going to be our fishing adventures. So when we go out and we go to the national championships, we come up and we see you, we go camping and kayaking with Freedom Squad. It'll be nothing but a pure fishing / outdoors channel. No reviews, no tackle talk, no, commercials for American Legacy and Catch and Monster Bass and all the things that we do on Fishing with Gramps. I don't know. I need to probably rename it again to like fishing stuff with Gramps, or,
Here we go again. It's not over, folks.
Because it's not like you're going fishing with Gramps. We're talking about fishing with Gramps. Maybe that's what I need to rename it to. But that part of it is I know you probably see this as well. Many other fishing YouTubers do. There are those YouTubers that put out fishing content where it's them fishing and they blow up and that's their thing. Greg Blanchard, Christine Fisher, very little reviews, very little tackle talk. They're just fishing. There is an audience for that. And I am one of those people. If I want to put something, hop on the couch, put it up on the big screen, it's watching those, kind of things. And, because I love showing, I really want to get into sharing what it is we love when we're doing out there.
Right.
Versus what I pretty much am doing now with Fishing with Gramps. That started with the how to fish from the bobber, the hook, all the way up to now kayak fishing and tournaments. So what I did with like the how to begin to fish series, that's going to obviously start out. Next is going to be a how to get into kayak fishing. So start at the very beginning and pour everything I know into every video. Yes, I'm going to be in my paddle kayak.
Whoa.
The Cadillac is going to have to take a back seat when I start this series, because we're going to start at the beginning and then work our way through our kayak series too, putting in everything that Jeremy and I have learned over our last 10 or more years fishing out of kayaks. So start that series. But again, all the review stuff and all the how-to stuff, Fishing with Gramps, two brothers fishing, put it all into play.
So tell me more about this editing of videos thing that you're talking about. You
I think I'm
freeze
just gonna hire it out. I think I'm just gonna pay somebody. I'm gonna pay editors, make more videos.
You were freezing out. You're frozen. You're like a frozen Gramps right now.
Oh,
And you're
like
like
good on my end. Am I frozen on your side?
oh my goodness. I'm connected to a hard line. It should be working right now. Bummer. All right, give us a second while we try to figure this out, folks. I apologize. What in the world?
Hmm.
You still there? Robot Gramps. All right, if you're listening in, it's frozen. Am I frozen or is Gramps frozen? There we go. This has never happened in 28 episodes. And of course, when we're just getting all riled up. All right, you're back, kind of. You're moving.
It must be something with Comcast. I don't know what's going on.
You know what? I can hear you clearly now. So let's hope. Yeah, they're saying it's on your end. But hey, you know what? Let's keep going because I can hear you, and now you're back to clear. Robot
Great.
Gramps. That is another
Yeah,
one of your identities.
It must be something with Comcast going on too. So it's hard telling.
You keep talking about all these videos you're going to be editing, but I haven't seen a video from you. What is going on?
So
Then we're
is
going to
no
get into the juice,
editing.
guys. We're gonna hop into postpone. I got this one last question for Gramps here.
Yeah, there's no editing that goes on during the month of May. Jeremy and I and Matt and several others that are KBF members are in what we call Mayhem. And this is the month that we qualify for the KBF National Championship. So the top percent of each state that are competing goes to the KBF National Championship, their State Challenge Series National Championship. So this is month of just nothing but fishing. So I'll have cameras running for the most part, even though I didn't last night. It's all about catching fish, not jacking with editing, because honestly, I'm wore out. I took off tomorrow through next Wednesday, which is when it ends on the 31st. And tomorrow I'm literally just going to sleep in and reline rods, track baits, and get ready to fish basically Thursday through Wednesday, every day from sun up to sundown. And it's about putting as many on the board because Indiana is the toughest state to qualify in because we have more people. We have twice as many people than almost every other state right now competing for these slots to go to the national championship. So yeah, this is the first live stream I've done in this month, and it's because we said we would do it. And I just happened to be, brought all my rods and reels in out of the truck, and I just got to redo everything and get ready for 6 days of straight hell.
Well, you kind of baited me today on the YouTube. Like, hey, can I catch up with Darren? Because right now I'm like, I was head and head with the creek crawler. Guys, there's over 4,000 fish posted on Knucklehead Bass Fishing Series. If you're not part of that, you can still hop in for this month. I have some guys who are like, hey, I'm going fishing all next week, and I haven't signed up yet, and I'm going to.
Yeah.
Like, holy cow! Like the final week. It's starting again next month. Starts over again. $15 entry fee. Be a part. It's just a lot of. It's just I'm having a ton of fun just talking trash with Grant.
Oh yeah, I told you I'm coming.
Well, yeah. Well, you're like, hey, I wonder if I can catch up. And you're like, you took the entire next week off. Yeah, you're gonna catch up.
I can't do like you and Jeremy and fish during the week. When everybody's at work.
So I'm not at work. I was up at 4 o'clock this morning.
I get up at 4 o'clock every day. that's just going. Okay, 4:30. That's just to go to work.
All right, so let's hop into pre-spawn, spawn, post-spawn because I get this question a ton.
Yep.
And fishing could be really, if you live like where we're at, like Northeast Ohio along that line, even a little bit down Gramps, if you're kind of in that general area, you're probably like fish are all over the place. Like you're probably killing it maybe a couple weeks ago and you're like getting skunked or all you're picking up is dinks right now. So if you got questions about it as we're talking about this, and I only know a little bit about it. I'm not like an expert or pro. I know I've heard you talk about a lot of Gramps. Look forward to hearing what you have to say about it as well. I got some experience. We brought all the baits that we have hooked up right now. And so we're going to be talking through those in a little bit, but lay it on us from your understanding, Gramps, pre-spawn, spawn, post-spawn bass fishing.
So keep in mind, a certain time of year, and it's a little bit different wherever you're at in the country. For example, right here in southern Indiana, just now we're starting to get past the spawning phase. In the post spawn, the bass have laid their eggs. Those eggs have actually starting to hatch. You get fry, and you'll see the balls of those running around, and then the bass will dedicate the rest of their time staying with those fry while they're in balls, to keep the bluegill and everybody else from lunching on them while they're trying to get big enough to basically defend themselves. So pre-spawn, the bass know, especially the bigger bass. And Jeremy and I were actually discussing this. Jeremy's my brother. For those of you who aren't familiar with two brothers fishing, Jeremy was a long time professional angler. He fished tournaments forever. While he was working full time, and we're talking back in the 80s and 90s. He was also a guide at Lake Fork. So he is the family guru when it comes to knowing bass. But the point is you have to understand in your area when and what time of year the bass go through these phases. So your bigger bass are the ones that are laying the eggs. The females on the bed, and then the males there with her. And a lot of people will bed fish. You'll see the pros do it in their tournaments to try to do that. Myself, I really don't seek bedding fish. I'd rather let them be. I'm not fishing for $100,000. So I generally let bedding bass be. So pre-spawn, the bass are going to just gorge themselves. And this is the time, your water temp's still a little lower, but this is the time when you can really put the smack down on them. And I actually did this at the very last week of April, and I had my best tournament finish in this tournament series I had the last week of April. I went down a 75 yard stretch of bank, and I would catch a 19, an 18, an 18, a 17. And when you're talking about kayak anglers, we measure instead of weigh. But 3 and 4 pounders, I'm working this grass line, baits to be throwing, spinnerbaits, anything that mimics like a shad. These fish want to load up and feed up. It's like us and pizza on a Friday night watching football, drinking beer. You want to just load up, you're getting, and that's what they're doing is they're storing calories because they know they're not going to be able to eat for weeks. So things like spinnerbaits, if they're a little more lethargic, a jerk bait, shad pattern, if you've got shad, bluegill, if that's your water, chatterbaits are another of my favorite. Underspins with paddle tails, or if you've got too much grass for an underspin, just put your paddle tail on a ball jig head and run it over the top of stuff. But baits that imitate the stuff that bass love to eat. And a lot of people like throwing jigs then too, but I really this year, even a jig bite pre-spawn really didn't hit it well for me. But that's when you can really tear them up. And then I will also like flukes or stick baits, like a Senko weightless.
Yeah.
But I will fish those. Those grass lines or rock lines where the bass are pushing, bait fish up towards the banks so they can, kind of pool up on them. But that's what they do pre-spawn. And then all of a sudden, every place you were catching them tons of fish. So from basically May 1st through day before yesterday, it was like the Dead Sea. Now, don't get me wrong. They don't all spawn at the same time. They will go in phases. Like, for example, on my birthday, May 5th, I caught a couple of dinks, I think 2 13s. And Jeremy and our buddy Bobby, we had been out all day. And I was the only one that I think caught a couple of fish. And at the very end of the day, after I left, Jeremy catches a 20-inch bass under a dock. And, so there was still one out, not yet on the bed. And then our friend Bobby caught, an 18 and a half. And, you're talking about all day fishing where fishing is normally fire. We didn't expect the spawn to kind of hit that fast, but it shut down literally that fast. Now, what I tell a lot of people to do, if you have the option, like in Darren ran into this as well, if you have river systems to fish, those smallmouths and even the largies on the river, it's like a different ecosystem because the water is moving. Now, while I was down here suffering because I fish lakes and ponds, the guys up north where Jeremy lives in Indy and up are pretty much slaying smallmouth bass. So I was up there actually before May started, but Jeremy and I went out. He caught a 20 is PB Smalley on the river. I think I caught like a 16-inch largemouth that day. But it's like the river systems are just a little bit different. So if you have the option to fish both while your largemouth are on the beds, go find some creeks, go find some rivers and chase those smallies. Because like in Darren's, he came over to Indiana and went and fished with another YouTuber and was, 2 hours north of me, caught a nice 18-inch, fish. And, that's a good one to have for, his Wendell's, his team Wendell's, competition too. So a lot of guys will jump to the rivers when bass fishing is garbage, but I'm like, I can't drive 2.5 hours every day just to try to go up and find fish. So I just kind of keep hitting my same lakes, trying to find either one that came off early or still hadn't gone. And I did that with a couple of like 15s. I grinded out some 15-inchers, some 14-inchers just to get on the board. And then, it was just one of those things where now here in Southern Indiana, it's starting to heat back up. Mm-hmm. So I'm hoping my lake that was pretty dead last week, but I did catch 2 18s on. I'm hoping to see those 19s, 20s, the 21s that are known to be there. So I basically got 10 days where I've got 2 different spots that I'm going to hit that I'm really hoping post spawn is in effect, where now they're done guarding fry. They're done with their parental duties, so to speak. They're getting ready. And what a lot of people don't understand too is when summer's coming, because Memorial Day is the kickoff of summer, so spawn ends. You have a certain amount of bass, and we'll talk largemouth right now. You have a certain amount of bass that live deep, and those are the ones you find offshore brush piles. If you watch Major League Fishing, Dustin Connell, Jacob Wheeler out there looking at their forward-facing sonar, shaky heads, drop shots, you have deep summer bass. They like going back out to the deep water. You have another segment of bass that are shallow water, and they're the ones that you catch on your topwater frogs in the weeds, your buzzbait fish, your chatterbait on shallow flats, and that's when post-spawn hits. So right about now, what I saw last night, those bass have come out of their, they're break their duty, so to speak, of guarding the fry. They're leaving those spawning flats. They're going to be on secondary points and pockets, getting ready to go follow their highways, the creek channels, whatever, back to their haunts, whether they're going shallow or they're going deep. But generally, and like I ran into last night, I literally burned up a bag of Senkos.
And bag?
When I talk about how Gramps fishes for post-spawn, Texas rigged, weightless Texas rigged Senkos. Now, if you're big into flukes, another good option. For me, I can wacky rig it. I can Texas rig it. I can very lightly Texas rig it, and where I weightless. And, you were asking about the juice, and I said I wasn't going to say nothing because I'm still in competition with you. But, so clear water, I got the green pumpkin, slightly stained and everything else, black and blue. And yeah, you'll pay probably $30 for a bag like this, and they only last you for a fish or two. But when you catch the right ones, you don't care. And if you use the Gramps affiliate link at Do It Molds and buy you a Senko mold and a Pyrex cup and an old microwave,
shameless,
you can remelt them and use them over and over again. So I literally have piles of old Senkos laying around that I will remelt, add some salt to, and use them again. And there's a lot of people that like the Yum Dingers and others, they more durable, more bang for your buck. But I'm telling you what, I've tested them all, and I know what gets me bit, and I know what I use when it matters.
It's the Yamos,
so the fact that I can also recycle them, it makes a lot of difference too.
Yeah.
So Post spawn, I'll even call it pre-post spawn, because post spawn I consider when they're really heading back to their haunts. So if you find a secondary point off of there, that's where all of the fish will be bundled up. And I ran into this last night. They were at a rocky point in like a grass line, and I would just throw a Senko in the pockets of this grass, shake it a couple times, and like I said, I told you before the show, I caught between 20 and 25 fish from 12 inches up to 17. And in this lake, the 17s and 18s are the biggest fish. So, I wasn't expecting to catch any giants, because the big fish there are 17, 18-inch fish. So when I'm catching the best that has, that just shows that they're all stacked up before the group that goes shallow, and the group that goes back deep goes deep. And it was just one of these things. I mean, I was probably fishing a 40-yard stretch around this point. I would go down, catch, turn around, and I would just don't leave fish to find fish in the post spawn. If you found any, you have found many. Write that down. If you have found any, you have found many. And keep fishing it. Keep fishing it.
So I lost. I was fishing this morning and lost the GoPro. It's sitting in 20 feet of water right now.
I've lost at least 3 GoPros in my YouTubing career, and one Canon M50.
Oh, ouch!
So
that's like
it's
half a G, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness! I got a quick question here.
It's not fun. Now, if you ever and I learned this later, I've heard that there are camera companies or professional photography studios. They can actually clean those cameras, and a lot of times they can bring it back like it was never. I think it just depends on if the camera was on while it got wet, or if it was like mine, it was in a camera bag that got soaked, but it was off. So lesson learned. I shouldn't have just thrown it away, but like Bass Ackwards 13 is saying, he did well with the weightless rig today. Yeah, the weightless. How do you buy bulk Yamamoto baits? It's funny because I wish they would have them at American Legacy Fishing, because that's it's my go-to rod and reel place. But baits.com, I think, is the actual retail store for Yamamoto baits. And then I think Fish USA, Chad Hoover's store, or who he works with, that's actually where I got these at. But yeah, I like buying them in bulk, 100%. And if you're lucky enough to get some of those, Fish USA gift cards that Chad gives away often for Knucklehead, for Cash 22 and stuff like that, that's a great thing to buy. And then, like I said, one Senko mold, because the actual Senko mold is licensed with Do It, so you can actually pour the actual Senkos at your own place and do that too. So now, and I've actually got a big bag of those too that I keep saying I'm going to use. But that's got to go on a shirt. Rip GoPro.
I need one now. I'm part of the family. Fun fact: the Yamamoto Senkos, the ones with salt in them, they actually have a patent on that for a certain amount of salt. So you can get yourself in trouble if you start mass producing Senkos with salt in them. You get big.
That's
I've heard their legal team is one of the fiercest in the business.
You can make any bait you want and give it away, or use it yourself. Like, you can make the chattergramps.
Yeah.
Just Do It Mold sells all the stuff to make your own chattergramps, but you can't sell it. You have to have that little extra ring in there, but that takes away from the action.
Yeah. So really quick, let's go back to the pre-spawn, post-spawn, spawn. I think it's important to note, because a lot of people think, okay, it's spawn. Every fish in the lake is in that particular spawning stage. And it's just not true, right? You have some going in, some in the middle, maybe even some going out, depending on the timing of that. And that happens for a reason, right? So if every bass goes to lay eggs at the same time, and then the water turns and kills all the eggs, well, you're not going to have any eggs. And so it happens in waves over time. So don't be too incredibly discouraged. They're still out there. There'll still be a caught. This morning, I was fishing with Bowfin Junkie before work. He's actually over here. And I was going around this island to another spot that has a deep ledge that I like. It's about 10 feet deep. And I passed probably 100 bass beds. And just bass were scattering left, right.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't want to sit there and goof around and try to, irritate them to the point where they bite. I just passed them on. Like, I'll see you guys later. But they're big ones. I was like, but went around the corner and started throwing this wacky rig and I just let it fall. It wasn't even a Gary Yamamoto. I usually have the Yamamotos because those are like my favorite. I ran out. I got a bulk bag coming. I think I got mine from Tackle Warehouse or something, wherever sells them. And so those are in the mail. I love the Black Fleck, GP Black Fleck. But Bowfin just caught one. He's borrowing my measuring board because he flipped his kayak last week and all of his stuff untethered went to the bottom of his lake.
Poor dude.
He had to go diving early this week. He found most of it. But nonetheless, he uses my catch board. I throw it out and it probably falls 10, 15 seconds. And boom, I hit this guy. Where's he at? Right here. 18 and a quarter. And then 30 seconds later, catches like 17 on the wacky. So they are still out there. And I think he just mentioned a moment ago that I had to leave because I had to go to work and he was still out there for the day. And he's like, hey, I actually marked some fry over in that area. I think you landed your wacky worm right in their bed. I didn't know it because it was 10 feet deep, but they could be kind of anywhere. Yep. And so they're still out there. One of the telltale signs for me around here is kind of when there's like the shad spawn. When I start seeing bait balls of shad everywhere, that's usually and I see them all the lakes in Northeast Ohio up here. That's usually when it's like, okay, it's happening, right? When the shad are spawning, typically the bass are spawning, and it is go time. And so,
see, down here, our shad spawn is like right after or right during post spawn. So it's like right when those fish need to load up and eat, they got plenty of stuff to munch on.
Right on. All right, we got a bunch of questions that we've kind of passed over here because we've been in it to win it.
Oh yeah.
Josh Anderson's like, I haven't catch him on the wacky rigs right now. Absolutely, all day. And I just started breaking out my wacky rig. I'm going to go through some of the lures I have tied on right now that have been performing for me, at least up here in Northeast Ohio. And I'll let Gramps do the same. Maybe. I think he may already given away about as much as he wants to give away right now. But
we can talk gear and equipment, hooks, there we go. And things like that too. Yeah.
So Josh asked, what's the best lures to use for this time of the year? We'll get to that in a minute. We got Daniel Pierce saying frogs have been killing it for me here on the west side of Indy. So that's like Avon area. I used to live over there.
Jeremy's been smacking them on a frog as well.
Nice. Speaking of Jeremy, funny story. He can't get bit on the wacky rig.
I know. I can't catch him on a frog. He can't catch him on a wacky rig.
I love it. Elizabeth, I believe. Elizabeth, you down in Florida? She's like, I haven't even thrown a Senko this year. She has other things that must be.
She's too busy catching those 21 to 23 inch bass.
I know. Chuck asked, how do I ask the question? I'm just trying to, usually if you write question before your question, it helps me identify it because I'm like listening to Gramps, asking questions and moderating, trying to figure out who's asking questions over here. So just write question before your question and I start and circle back on it in a little bit. All right. So if you got a question about pre-spawn, spawn, post-spawn, go and throw that in. We're going to kind of move on a little bit here. But the lures that we are throwing right now. And so we'll just kind of go back and forth, Gramps. You go, I go, and we'll just kind of run through them all. And the ones that have been working for you, ones that maybe usually work for you, but for some reason are not. And just kind of any thoughts you got on that?
Well, the first one that didn't work was the frog of patriotism because I love taking those pictures and posting them on Instagram and in the community tab just because the fam loves seeing them. But let it be known, I cut it off and tie a buzzbait on right after that. But, it's just one of those things. So let's talk a little bit about the wacky rig because to me, that is the simplest. And it doesn't matter what kind of gear you have, whether you're fishing G Loomis or Abu Garcia Black Max. It doesn't take a lot of fanciness to do it. You can go as big or small, and that's the great thing about fishing, as you want. But 8 to 10 pound test line, sometimes 12. And I use straight fluorocarbon. I know a lot of people like the braid to various leaders.
I'm with you.
I get rid of all the nonsense. I will throw braid on a spinning reel occasionally if it's some situation where I just cannot see the line. I tend to go that route more in the summertime if I'm fishing on longer, brighter days, just so I can see the line moving. But for the most part, it's 8 to 10 pounds Seaguar and Vizix fluorocarbon.
There it is.
Now, tell me what kind of hook you like to use on your wacky rig.
Right here. You guys see that?
There it is, baby.
A lot of people like those big long ones. I just like the circle hook. I think these are like size 1, and I don't miss hook sets with them.
Yeah.
And people like clown on, well, one, people clown on the wacky rig, period. I don't
Yep.
know why, because it produces. Someone, I think someone just wrote me, oh, he's a professional angler. He basically missed recently, it was just like last week. He missed a bass on like a chatterbait, and he followed it up with a wacky and caught like a 9.5 pounder
Yeah.
in a tournament. And so I don't know why everyone keeps clowning on this thing, because it is absolutely money. So what hook do
So
you
the
use?
wacky is the perfect follow-up bait. If you get a blow up and a miss on a frog or a buzz bait,
Mm-hmm.
right where that ripple is, throw a wacky rig right back in there. Always have it within our arm's reach. So for me, wacky rig, drop shot, Nico, all of them. I use like the size 2 Neko hooks. I've actually gone
There you
that
go.
way. I used to use the smaller ones like you're using, but for the most part, when I'm doing an actual wacky rig, I will use one of the Neko hooks. I mean, those for me work across the board, and so it's just simpler for me to buy them in bulk because if the great thing about a wacky rig is you can make it a Neko rig just by inserting a nail into the end of it,
Yep.
and then you're getting it down there a little bit faster. You know what I'm saying? And those work great on ledges and things like that too. But I've had a lot of success with the Neko hook, so I've actually gone that way, and that works for me. Do you go straight through the plastic, or do you like using the various rings?
So there's like 90,000 different ways to hook it up, and I feel like
Oh yeah,
everyone, you do. I have this short that has like 250,000 views on it, and people, I shot it last year, and people are still like, oh, just use an O-ring, bro. Use a double O-ring, bro. Or use super glue, or use shrink tube, or use silicone, or straight through the worm. I actually bought recently one of those silicone tubes and the little pliers. So
yep,
I have not tried that out yet. It's in the mail, but I don't like the rings because the bass always snatch them, and I always have left just the ring
yep.
on it. I never get around, and I like pre-rigging all my stuff. I don't like to be out there in my kayak, like trying to figure this out in the midst of the moment. And if you put a lot of times those O-rings and leave them on the worm, you'll come out the next morning and look at them, they'll all be cut in half
Yeah.
because the pressure of that
The
O-ring.
word you want to see the worst for that is the Berkeley General.
Oh, really?
I hate the new mix that Berkeley changed when they went to the newer whatever it was that replaces the power bait. Their baits are so brittle now. I was actually going to go out and try some of their generals because I wanted to do the max scent and blah blah blah. I put an O-ring on there and it split it in half before I made the first cast. I was like, well, now I have two Ned baits. But I'm like, come on, Berkeley, you don't have to make it so fragile. I mean, they make a dinger that will last forever. That's not quite a Lastec, but it doesn't have the same fall rate and motion
Gotta
of the
fall. Yep.
Senko. And so I just have to fish. I have to fish the Senko because for me, it's what I'm the most comfortable with.
Yeah. Um, I mean, what I love about the wacky, and a lot, and if you haven't used it, a lot of guys, I see a lot of people lighting it up, like, oh yeah, I caught an odd pound. A lot of people use it. Some people don't. I love skipping this thing. Man,
Oh yeah,
whenever I'm not getting it by kind of doing the long rainbow cast, I'll skip it, and man, that just makes a difference. I feel like I'm getting the attention of every bass over that like 15 feet that this thing is skipping,
yep,
and they just follow it all the way in. It's a lighter entry, so it doesn't scatter in a lot of the shallow, and so I'll fish GP black fleck in real shallow water, like 2-3 feet, and then I'll move over to the Yamamoto's when I wanted to sink, and that's what I was using, I think, this morning. So I use basically two. I also use the Creme brand. They're really, really cheap ones. You go in the Walmart and look on the bottom. There's like a 5 pack for like a buck
yep,
25. Those nail it for me. And so when they're 70 to 80 cents a pop, when you buy
yep,
the Yamos, it makes a difference to keep these on. And so right now I'm using shrink wrap, the translucent kind of shrink tubing. It's working really well. But I'm going to Try the silicone.
And I tell everybody, watch for your Walmart, your Ollies, whenever they're having their clearance bins and they're getting ready to load up with the new baits. You can buy a pack of Senkos for $1.50, and it doesn't have to be Yamamoto Senko. Those are my favorites, but Strike King makes the Ocho that are really good. Reaction Innovations got the good stick baits. There's a lot of good companies. The Dinger. I mean, they will all catch fish. But like you said, I love being able to skip that under docks. For those who fish along creeks and whatnot, you've got a lot of overhanging trees. A lot of the pits that I fish, it's like that too. So especially it's, I fish with mine with a bait caster. I've got a setup just for that I use for my shaky heads and stuff like that too. But being able to skip, especially starting out, for those of you with the spinning rod, shooting it under, and people see it like, well, doesn't that sound, scare off the fish? The plop of a bait going up and coming down scares them more than that scattering over the top like you're skipping a rock. Because if you think about it, bass are chasing shad out of the water all the time. They're used to that in and out of the water sound. What they're not used to is something that sounds like a rock dropping on their head, and they're like, what was that? But if you could get where you can skip it in there, because a lot of times I'll skip along a weed line just to make that sound of the bait fish scattering to get their attention and not scare them too. So, I mean, that's a great thing about stick baits. They're super cheap. They're easy to skip, and they just flat catch them. Now, if you might be a fluke master, like, good old Gene, and, throw flukes a lot this time of year, especially post spawn. You getting them out there, give them a pop, and just, and, let the bass tear them up that way too. But stick baits, they just flat catch them. I mean, I can fish that. I mean, I will probably throw that in the next 10 days, 80% of the time. I mean, normally I'm a jackhammer chatterbait, rip and grip and go. But, right now, until the fishing really turns on fire, I will have a wacky rig, or one of my favorites actually is weightless Texas rigged with a 3/0 VNC hook with the ring on it. Because when I tie my bait on that and I cast it out, I can give it that twitch and it darts like a fluke, but that I can pause it and let it fall like a Senko. And every fish I caught, except for one last night, was on a Senko that way. It was just incredible.
Nice. I fish with people who right beside me, fishing the wacky rig, and it's simple, but there is some nuances to it to really to dial that in. I'm not going to go into the nuances. For me, it's a target strategy. I've done a video on this where I go to like take the deep dive, but essentially, if I don't, I throw it, let it fall 5 seconds. If it doesn't hit, I tug, pause. I do that 5 times. After the 5th time, I stop doing it because I have found over the years, your chances of catching a fish past 5 tugs is really, really low, as opposed to the first 5 tugs in a pause. And
then you're just being efficient, keep moving until you find them, and then once you find them,
keep moving. But I've seen people they'll keep on like tug pausing all the way back their boat, and it'll take they'll spend half their time in a really low percentage use of that particular bait. And so keep that in mind. Do that 5 times, reel it in, target another area. You're gonna have more luck doing that. All right, let's move on. Second bait. I'll go ahead and jump into this one because I used it this morning and caught one. I was out with Bowfin Junkie. And of course, it's a spinner bait. But right now, I like willow leaf. If I had a double willow leaf, that's what I would be using this morning. But I had a Colorado blade, willow leaf, light colors. I never fish a spinner bait without a trailer hook. And I just started adding this guy on the end. So I'll take like a Yum Pulse, kind of cut it in half, and run that on the back. And you should see this action as you pull this through the water, as this looks like crazy, absolute crazy. And it got bit this morning. It was a lot of fun. Dropped it probably 10 feet into a 20-foot hole and just started pulling it. I killed it, and boom, it just nailed it. And so some nuances there to the spinner bait. Most of the times they just come bare like this. Find yourself, sometimes they come with a trailer hook, and add yourself a little paddle tail. You got yourself money. Got a lot of those. You ever done that before, Gramps? This little deal?
I've been more of a fan of like a twin tail kind of thing. So the old school twin tail, like double split kind of grubby things.
Yeah.
These days, since I have so many big bite baits, kamikaze swim-ons for my chatterbaits, I will use those on spinner baits as well, just to get those two little tails going. But something like a rage tail, things like that work really well too, to just get those little kicking actions.
Yeah.
But I really like to keep it. I really like to keep it as light on the spinner baits as possible. I really become a fan of the mega bass spinner baits because they have behind their skirt, they have the two or three longer tails that kind of fill that role in there too. And then they have a little bit bigger than willow blades on theirs, but they just, they smack them too.
Brown bait, you despise trailer hooks. I'm curious on why, because that's usually where I hook most of my bass is with that trailer hook. So go and throw it in there. I'm just curious. I'm not like trying to call you out. I'm curious why you don't like them. Yeah, Greg, I hate fishing the spinner bait. I really don't like doing it. I think it's boring. You throw it out. I'm not controlling any of the deflection like you can with a lot of your other hard baits outside of killing it. But it just happens to catch at this time of the year when nothing else is, because it's imitating the shad, right? That's what it's doing.
Yep.
Speaking of mega bass, I purchased the most expensive baits that I own and been having quite a bit of luck with them. This is one of them, the mag draft. This is 8-inch mag draft. You might have saw this. I posted it not too long ago. They call it the mag draft because inside of it right here is a magnet, and you can kind of set this hook back in here, and it kind of holds it tight. And you don't fish this super fast. And so I put like 18-pound fluorocarbon on it. You throw it out. It's heavy as all get out. It goes like a country mile. And you do a slow roll back just to get this tail, and the whole front kind of does this nice wobble. If you pull it in too fast, it starts to roll. But man, I can't tell you. It's a lot of fun because a lot of the small aggressive bass, you'll feel the hits on it.
Yeah.
You won't catch them, but you just kill like bam, 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 bam. They'll keep on slapping this thing. And every once in a while, you'll get, and usually if something bites the 8-inch, which I've had it happen multiple times, it's usually 2.5 plus every time.
Yep.
So mega bass.
I've actually got one of those. I'm gonna start throwing it here in the post spawn in the pit that I'm gonna be fishing this weekend. It's got, comes up and you got the 9-foot ledge and then up into the shallower, and it's not choked with grass. And I think they're gonna be sitting down there. It's just funny.
Yeah. So they make a 6-inch in one of these as well. I just got those two. I caught one on it this morning. If you're getting a bunch of smaller bites and they can't quite get their mouth around the 8-inch mag draft, maybe size down a bit and you're good to go. So this has been working at least this past month. Every time I've at least caught one, I think I might have been skunked one time on the mag draft, but every other time I've caught one. Working.
Can you see the comment from Mike Brock? Would you highlight that if you can?
Oh my goodness. I have a feeling. What where's that?
Mike is my old tournament partner from our club days.
Here we go. All right. I don't even know what it says. I'm just throwing it up here.
It says tournament last week, fish would not bite a Senko, but we tore them up on a spinnerbait and a tube of all things.
All right.
I can concur with that because I caught my 218s last weekend on a tube. I actually caught a ton more. They just weren't the size that I needed for upgrades. But I didn't really talk about those a lot because that's kind of the juice that it was sitting on. But yep. So sometimes those bluegill imitating baits like a tube, and people don't throw them a lot these days, except they always think, oh, you only can use tubes on the rivers for smallies. No.
I used to throw tubes growing
up. You throw a stupid tube on and twitch it, it looks like a bluegill darting, and they'll smack it. Plus, you can skip it anywhere you want to. I love being able to skip baits.
Speaking of stupid tube, isn't that one of your shorts that kind of went wild and crazy?
That's the second number one behind the Texas rig.
It keeps on popping up on my as I scroll through YouTube.
Like, hey, as long as you watch it,
I've seen it.
As long as you watch it again, it's good.
Oh, so good. Sap123 said, scared of throwing the mag draft up here in Minnesota. Yeah, they'll chew it in half and spit it out. That's exactly what to do. And it's like $30 with shipping to get one of the 8-inch ones. So you got to be careful where you throw that because everyone knows the second you throw that, you're going to hit some underwater timber that's 8 feet just below where you can reach your pole and get and kind of poke it out. So All right. So many comments. I wish I can like follow them all. I know there's a ton of questions here. I'm just missing them. So if you're seeing them while I'm chatting, Gramps, help me out here.
All
Brown
right.
Bait says, I do love the mag draft. Wendell, cut a paper clip to make it a U shape and stick it over the hook and into the plastic so the hook does not come out after a lot of casts and fish. All right. That is an issue,
Oh, kind
especially
of
on the
help hold it
8-inch.
in place.
Yeah,
Yeah.
hold it in place. I mean, on the 6-inch, the hook doesn't come out very often, but on the 8-inch, it comes out all the time. So, solid tip there. Thank you so much. All right, what else you got, Gramps? Or I can
So
just keep
carrot.
going.
So people were asking about baits or knots we use for moving baits and whatnot. I always recommend the San Diego Jam, especially with fluorocarbon. It's an easy knot to tie. It's actually fun to watch in the video because it's like you're doing a loop and then spinny, 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 and then. But like Kara was talking, she's watched the video today like 6 times. But it's just one of those. Once you do it a few times, you'll get used to it. It's very simple. Just remember, wrap it around 6 times and loop it through the loop at the hole at the bottom of the twists, and then through the loop at the top of your hand. Just gently pull it tight, wet it, and then cinch it down, and you'll be set. Because if you don't tie a polymer perfectly, then on a hook set, if you really snap at it, the line can cut into it. So San Diego Jam and then double San Diego Jam for all my harder hook sets, jigs, Texas rigs, things like that. But realistically, once you get used to doing them both, they're really simple to do.
Interesting enough, I tie a Palomar for everything.
Yep.
But I can still see. I can still see if I tie it correctly.
Yep. When you lose a 10-pounder, because I've only had one 10-pounder on the line, and I know what it was. Of course, now you're talking back when polymer when fluorocarbon first came out, but I've had Shaw Grigsby. So many people say the same thing. Just I actually did a short countering my don't tie the polymer knot with Jacob Wheeler showing how to tie it so that you have the best chance of it not cutting into itself. But the San Diego Jam knot's actually easier to tie once you get used to doing it, and it's a whole lot faster too, and a
Hey,
whole
Gramps,
lot less chance of burning.
this is interesting because I've seen that video. I actually did a video on why I think that's a myth, on the Palomar deal. But I understand there's a lot of pros out there as well. If you tie it right, I don't believe it cuts in on itself. So I think that's
Yep.
that's the key there. The key is, can you see it, right?
Yep.
Because it's really difficult to see if you tied it right. And if the it's a hitch knot, right? So if the two that's going around the hook eye are crossed, you're in trouble.
Yep.
And a lot of times people just can't see that, right? So as
Yep.
my eyesight gets worse as I get older, I will need to find a different knot because right now I can see it. I got 20/20, but I
It's
won't
like
be able
everybody
to.
sees that picture on Instagram, the 5-year challenge, where you can see the hook from the knot clearly, and then it's fuzzy, and it's like, that's me. Because I've got good vision close up, so I have to take my glasses off. That's why I don't even have them on while I'm doing lives, because I can't read the chat. But I'll put them up here, and then I'm like, I can't see. It's just like, you gotta be kidding me. It's like I need to have binoculars so I can see my knots.
Oh, what else we got? Okay, so I have this guy rigged up, of course, the Ned rig. This is what I was getting the 18-inch on smallmouth and rivers. But if I'm not having any luck on the wacky, I immediately go to the Ned to try to figure out if they're sitting on the bottom. And then once I find
Now,
them,
how do you fish those in creeks and rivers without it get stuck in every rock? I can't tell you how many Neds I've lost. It's just insane. It's like it's stuck in behind, clumps of rocks again, and you can't get
oh
it
yeah,
out. And it's like,
the snapping of the line. It comes out every
I've
time.
tried all of that. So my buddy, he'll actually make his Ned heads, and he does like he pours like the 30 seconds of an ounce. And
Oh
then,
wow,
his whole point is it's just enough to keep it going down and let the current move it to get the bait to pick, or the bass to pick it up. And that's what he does for, chasing smallies. But it's if I throw a Ned anywhere, it's like stuck. And then I'm,
it's
either trying to roll over it or pull it out. And it's just me. And the funny thing is, Ned is huge here in Indiana.
yeah,
Jackson Orr and his father just won the Hobie first and second place, the
right.
Hobie Trail the thing that just happened.
Using
Both
the
from
Ned.
Indiana, both throw Neds. The
Yeah,
Ned is huge here in Indiana. I can't catch. I've caught good fish on it here and there, but I don't trust it, and I can't do it.
Oh, I love it. Of course, I moved over to the extra wide gap. It's kind of go weedless because I get this thing caught in everything. And
Yep.
so this has kind of been a game changer recently. And someone asked the question, Mike M. He says, "What size Ned rig do you guys prefer?" 1/10. If I can find 1/10, that's what I'm throwing. I like it to be a little bit lighter because I like this staying in that strike zone just that little bit longer. The 1/8 ounce is just a little too heavy for the
Yep.
depths of water that I fish it in. And so I try to go 1/10. And I think that's what you're looking at right here. So
Yeah, and I won't throw. The only time I'll throw heavier Neds is if I'm fishing like a pit and then I'm forward facing sonar, a rock pile, or something deeper that I have to get it down there. But I'm talking like when we're fishing creeks or rivers, you basically have to go use. Now, see, crappy Kev is just, or crappie Kev is exactly the way I look at it. Use the tiny child rig instead of the standard neg. Now, if you don't know what a tiny child is, think of a weightless Senko, right? Texas rigged, and then put the nail weight at the other end. And then what that does is it's like a Texas rigged upside down Neko, but that's the tiny child. And that's another one of my favorites if I've got to get it down there, a little deeper, a little faster. But for me, that gives me the better hookup ratio because I'm keeping that hook away from any rocks or things to get stuck in.
there you go. Like it. I got one more. Two more. And then we had a question earlier. Like, what's the we'll answer that at the end. What's the one thing you keep hooking up even though you suck at it or it's just not catching fish for you, but you're like, everyone is telling me this should catch fish and I keep trying it and I shouldn't keep tying it up, but I keep tying it up because it's supposed to catch fish. So we'll circle back to that.
Every one of
I
the
know
fishing
yours.
fam.
I know yours.
Go ahead and throw in a comment, guys.
Yeah, go through. Everybody knows that one. Think of another one outside of the FROG, and I got mine. We'll talk about it in a little bit. But another one that's been performing for me, I've been kind of like moving away from my confidence baits, which is kind of finesse fishing, and trying to move into, the mag drafts, some of the glide. This is the S Waver from River to Sea. And so yeah, I recently caught a 4-pounder on this bad boy. And I actually had to go over to Tactical Bassin to learn how to freaking throw the thing. So I had to dial that in. They're showing some tricks. So if you looking to get, or if you have one of these, you're like, I can't pick anything up on it. I was having a conversation with someone back and forth on YouTube today. He's like, I watched it. I watched the video from Tactical Bassin. I still can't catch a thing on this. I've had a lot of fun with it. It's working well for me up here in Northeast Ohio. These treble hooks are absolutely massive. I've heard of some people like sizing them down, but I haven't had an issue. But this is the small one, I think the 180. And so I've been having this hooked up. I usually, when I enter a space, this is kind of just what I do. I'll throw my big baits first, try to get those big aggressive bass before I start plopping everything else in there. Even though these have incredible amount of sound on entry, but I throw them out there super far. So the S Waver by River to Sea is what I got hooked up right now. And
now,
the
what
last
rod
one,
and reel are you throwing that on?
oh man, I'm throwing this on 18-pound fluoro. I think I have it on a medium heavy, fast action, just lose Mach 2.
Yeah.
That's what I'm throwing this guy on, and it performs really well. I actually just got a yak rod. The video is going to be launching here on Sunday.
Okay.
So doing a review on that. I don't do a lot of reviews on gear, but I got this and I was like, okay, I'd like to catch a bunch of fish on a rod before I do a review on it. So that one's launching. I'm not going to take a detour there, but
Nope.
launching
Gotcha.
on Sunday.
I like to do an initial impressions, and then I'll come back with after I beat it to death. You know what I think my expectations are going to be, and then was I happy? Was I disappointed? It was just like, ugh. And I don't care since I'm not associated with any brand except for American Legacy Fishing, and they sell them all. So I can easily give my opinions on all of them, whether I like them or not. And it's just I'm just another guy with an opinion, and some people value that or not. So I don't.
Your opinion. I like your opinion.
Well, I mean, but some people are fanboys and they want to hear what they want to hear because it's a rod that they think they want to love or their brand. because I'll tell everybody, I will throw 6 cents, Guggen rods, Lew's rods, Abu Garcia, all the way up to G Loomis. I don't care. I'll play with them all and then just give, what I think is a value to it or not, because, it's a matter of, people earn what they earn and, spend what they want to spend on things. But then some people's opinions based on their loyalty to a brand to a T. And I don't have that. I don't, I will throw it all and, just give my initial impressions, especially if I think it's worth the money or not.
Yeah. We just had a conversation not on a live show. I called you up. I was like, you know what? I have 0 sponsors right now. I'm not associated with any kind of pro staff. And I really like it, right?
Yeah.
Because it allows you to say whatever you want, whenever you want to say it, about whatever you want, however you want. And so it's really, really nice. And hopefully that gets communicated. You could trust it. We have there's no ulterior motive. I'm not
Yeah.
ripping a brand, so I don't have to pull my punches on how I really feel, because that could come back. And so all this stuff is real. And so I hear what you say. I like your style. American Legacy is a company that carries all brands. So it kind of frees you up to do whatever you want, say whatever
Anything
you
I
want,
want.
whenever you want. So right on. I like it. All right. The thing that I have hooked up that I've caught fish on it, but I can't consistently catch fish, and it's not catching the bigs like everyone tells me to. Tells me it's going to. Here, let me go back to this. And it is, drum roll. Oh, come on. I'm trying to find a comment. Your brother actually said the comment. It's the chatterbait. Freaking chatterbait. Why can't I catch anything on the chatterbait? I've watched all the videos. I've tested it out. Now, granted, I pulled the skirt off this one because I was like, okay, I got a yum pulse on there. It's just I have jackhammers. I've tried those, tried the original chatterbaits, what you're looking at here without the skirt. They bite, but I have so many other baits. And so what's the trick, Gramps? Because I know you land them. And I was out on the lake last Saturday. And the guy's like, oh, yeah, I caught a 20, a 17, and 18 on the chatterbait. I was like, what am I doing wrong here?
So there's a couple schools of thought, and I take most of my advice from pros that I know throw a chatterbait quite a bit. And don't get me wrong, a chatterbait will get you bit a lot of times where just other baits don't seem to want to work. But man, you will lose chatterbait fish too, and it happens to me every year. The key thing is having a rod that's built for chatterbaits, and what I mean by that is a couple of different options. I'm actually doing a review right now on the best sub $200 chatterbait rod that I have come into in my last 3 years of reviewing chatterbait rods. My number one favorite is my G Loomis IMX Pro bladed jig rod, and it's tapered, but it's expensive. Okay. So when I actually asked Z-Man in a live stream 3 years ago, what's a good, what do you look for in a chatterbait rod? And they said you want a glass rod because of the parabolic action. And this is big in crankbaits too, because of basically treble bait hooks, or in this case, a single hook. But it's different than a spinnerbait because of that blade. That blade is notorious for blowing a bass's mouth open if you really want to go try to set the hook when you get bit. And so Rick Clunn actually did a video with a guy called, I think he was like it wasn't like the bass professor, but he's a scientist who evaluates bass in slow motion. But the key thing is when you get bit by a chatterbait, you want to lift and reel, and you want to keep always pressure on, because a bass will wrap their lips around it. And in the little bass, they're easy to catch. It's the big bass that it's hard to get that big giant hook into them, because when they close their mouth around that chatterbait, there is a big pocket of air or water. There's space there. And if you go and try to rip that with a hook set, that blade will basically pry the bass's mouth open, and you've got a 40% chance of that hook maybe catching something on the way out. So what you want to do is lift and keep steady pressure and reel it in. And at some point in time, if the bass doesn't get a chance to go down, they will adjust that bait in their mouth to pull it back into their crushers, because that's what they do, is they crush baits before they eat it. So they'll do that with crawfish and things like that. But the key thing is basically lift and steady pressure. And I know you say you don't like using a net, but a net is vital with chatterbait fishing, because I have had so many fish when they get to the surface, and I've got millions of videos, it seems like, on this. When they get to the surface and jump and open their mouth, it'll come out because it wasn't hooked. Or if they get to your boat and you go to try to reach for it, and if that's the first time they've opened their mouth, it'll just fall right out. And then whoop, there he goes. So that's why I'm huge on, and I got a whole review series on the various nets that I use for kayak fishing, especially with chatterbaits, long reach, leverage, I mean, all of it. But one of the things that I've had success lately over even the jackhammer is the Mini Max.
Okay.
The Mini Max has a smaller blade.
Yep.
Mini Max has a smaller blade, and it gets bit just as much. And I will pair that up with either a big bite bait swim on or a 6 Sense juggle minnow, and their colors. It's like Z-Man and 6 Sense match their colors perfectly. And the Mini Max has been the new juice for me this year. Before that, it was the Stealth Blade, because the Stealth Blade was smaller. And, you know, everybody else is talking about, oh, Stealth Blade don't catch them, blah, blah, blah. Oh, yes, they do. But the Mini Max is like the new hotness right now, because it doesn't have that big blade, and it just flat catches them. Okay. But back to the rod that I kind of detoured around that, because get me talking about chatterbaits. The rod that I ran into, now in the past, I have used the ones that Z-Man recommended me to first was the St. Croix Mojo Bass Glass, which is an affordable rod, parabolic action, which that's what you want, is that bend. But the glass, it's a heavier than most of the rods that we fish with these days. But the glass, the bend of it gives you enough backbone, but the tip flexes enough so that the bait won't always rip free from the bass. So now St. Croix makes a rip and chatter in the Mojo glass, and then they make it in Victory is now a line that they've come out with since. But then the other high-end one was like their Legend series. Then Dobbins, the two favorite chatterbait rods that I have there that Gary Dobbins put together are both glass. One's the 735 CB glass, which is a medium heavy. And then if you fish a lot of grass, the 736 CB glass is one that was my staple for years, until I ran into the Loomis IMX Pro that Graham sent me from American Legacy, and I can't get it out of my hands. But Daiwa, Brett Ayler put out a new bladed jig rod. If you saw my interview with Brett at the Classic, his bladed jig rod, sub 200, it's like $189, is a perfect combination. And I am super, well, I'll tell you how I'm impressed with it. This is my Loomis, and notice there's something missing on this rod. In the most vital point of my season of the whole year, this is sitting at home right now.
Is that where like the rods go to die in your office wall when they should be out in your kayak?
Oh, these all have to be redone before I go fish again. I literally went and grabbed these out of the truck when you were running your warm-up.
Oh, gotcha. All right, we got a bunch of comments over here. Look, mind if I head over here and start talking about, my goodness.
But the money right now, and of course my favorite reel is my Daiwa Zillion, but this Brett Ayler Daiwa Tatula 2023 bladed jig rod, again, under it's like $189 at American Legacy. And I have been thoroughly impressed with it. Now, Brett is the guy who likes the EVA. Each of the pros at Daiwa for their Pro Signature Series, they'll pick whether they want cork or the EVA, and Brent is an EVA guy. And, I mean, it feels real good. It's comfortable. But, I mean, and this thing casts everything from 3/8 up to 2 ounces. So everything from a Mini Max all the way up to the big blades. And I can't believe how good this thing is. I mean, I have been smacking them, and I haven't picked up the Loomis in a minute, even though it's my go-to money-making rod. I really wanted to put this thing to work, and I said I'm doing it through the most important season of the year, which is May. And you can see I was fishing in stained water yesterday because I got a black and blue.
Black and blue.
This is just the black and blue jackhammer with the big bite bait swim on, but in a little bit clearer water, or if I'm in bluegill water, that bluegill color mini max. But I mean, this rod has super. But again, go back and watch, Brett Ayler's interview with me and talking about why he put this rod together the way he did, but at a very good price point. It's crazy.
Dang, look, we knew we were going to start giving away a little bit at a time. You weren't planning on giving anything.
I'm going to keep my mouth shut because everybody's going to figure out what I'm catching them on.
All kinds.
But the bottom line is, and that's why I tell my brother and everybody else, I share everything I know. If you go catch them, you go catch them. At the end of the day, we all have to go catch our own fish, whether you're in a tournament or talking smack in a knucklehead series like we are. It's whatever it takes. We're here to share what we know to help everybody else catch fish. Even if you beat us and you took some advice from us to catch the fish, then we still came out ahead because you got from us what we were really trying to do. Greg, yes, it's a $500 combo. I can go pick up an Abu Garcia Black Max and catch the exact same bass over and over again. And I've got a million videos doing just that. I will go fish with a Zebco and catch a chatterbait fish. So, yeah, to each their own. I've got $1,000 combos. I've got $1,500 combos. I'm not here to flex. I've got a $10,000 fishing kayak and a $25,000 boat sitting up on the hill. It ain't about what we spend. It's about getting out, having a good time. I'll go catch them on a cane pole if you want. I mean, I'll blow up a rubber dinghy and go catch them that way too if you like. Everybody spend what you're able to spend as you get a little older. I've spent my entire career in the Army, working for the government, busting my tush. Yeah, I have some expensive toys, but I can go catch the same exact fish on a Walmart special that's on sale next week. I just give opinions on various things, various price points. So, yeah, take it for what it's worth. But, I mean, I've got videos out there smacking fish on a Lose Mach 2 combo that I paid, $99 for. You know what I'm saying?
I love the Mach 2. It's just so light.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I like about it because I'm like tired. I'm getting old. I'm getting tired. And picking up something light, it's like, that kind of feels nice. I'm going to be throwing that for the next hour. We got a lot of comments over here. We were talking about, let me see here. We got Bass Ackwards 13. Still want to try that 5-inch trace from 6 cents. Creek Trawler has been killing.
I've actually got one of those, and I'm going to start throwing it more too.
There we go. I know Creek Crawler. So if you go over to my Knucklehead challenge, it's kind of not fair because we're like, this morning we were tied, but we're not really tied because he had like 3 or 4 fish that were DQ'd. And so at the end of the day, I know, and now everybody knows that he has like 95, 96 inches on the board, but only showing like 92 and a half or something like that. So
and it's a learning process, my man. But that's the fun thing about the Knucklehead is it's a great place to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. See, I'm not alone here. So bucktail, what do you say? I have the same scenario going on with the chatter. I'm catching some fish, but not a ton of them. Not real big. We got Caro, Ferg, agreed on Chatterbird, maybe 4 in 5 years. 100% from Triple up in Canada, who's not even able to catch fish right now because it's not open season. 100% agree. You don't catch fish on chatterbaits. Your time is coming, my man.
See, and the funny thing is too, it's like everybody. It seems like a lot of people they figure out what their kind of style is. My brother is a Texas rig power worm. He'll throw some topwater walking baits, and that's why he and I make great fishing partners. With him in the front of the boat and me in the back, I'm a spinnerbait, chatterbait, jig throwing dude. He is a Texas rig, topwater. So when you have combinations like that, when everybody's doing things a little bit different, you can pick up fish that the other guy wouldn't too. But I mean, yeah, chatterbaits, there's a lot of bank anglers. You throw in a chatterbait, you're just getting hung up on everything and cutting it off. What's the point? You may as well just grab a swim jig because, that's the easiest, get a good swim jig with a paddle tail on it. And that's the funny thing. But it's funny, we were talking about like spendy stuff. So what brand of kayak paddle do you like?
Me?
Yeah.
I like the kind that you buy for $20 and I use like 0.2% of the time because I got a pedal drive. That's kind of
yep. So I've had Walmart special kayak paddles for years. This last year I picked up a bending branches.
There you go.
But it's the same thing, carbon fiber. I mean, you find when you get older and your parts don't work as well as parts used to work, an older, heavier bait caster, it wears you out.
It
If
does.
you can fish something that's just as strong, maybe cost a couple more bucks, but you can stay out there and fish longer. It's like I had to stop fishing for like a day because my left arm was wore out from twitching a Senko so many times.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was just like, okay, I'm done. I gotta let my body recover. I'm supposed to be off to fish tomorrow, but I think I'm gonna end up sleeping in, reorganizing tackle, resting, so I don't have to get up and go to work and rest. I'm just going to rest and get stuff done. I say all that, and I'll probably hit the water somewhere tomorrow afternoon, but you never know.
I hear you. I started going hard into the season, and I was like, "Oh, my wrist hurts. Is this like chronic? What's going on? This can't be." So I just need to like take like 2 or 3 days off.
Yeah.
So take care of yourself. Holy cow, everything's hurting getting this age. We were gonna play a fun game of overrated, underrated, but I have a feeling that will go off the rails. So we might have to like table that because underrated, overrated with you and I have a feeling it could be another hour on the show. So I think we're gonna do this like once a month, or
Yeah,
so,
I think it'd be fun.
and so it'd be kind of fun.
I
Gramps and
love
I
bringing
talked.
both of our communities together and just reading all the different comments and seeing over the interaction too. It's awesome.
It is fun, and so if you haven't done so yet, go ahead, please hit that like button. Get this a little bit more distance on the replay for us. Um, Make a comment, help us out there. And Gramps, you talked a lot about American legacy fishing. Do you have a code for everybody? You want to throw it out there, especially those maybe on the podcast?
Yeah, definitely. AmericanLegacyFishing.com. Use code GRAMPS10 and save 10% on most items. Now you're going to have those things like Shimano, Daiwa, whatever they have map pricing. Um, this is for online shopping. If you want to save money, regardless, just look up the website, call the phone number, tell them Gramps sent you, and they will always work out a discount for you that they can't give online. But if you're somebody who's buying stuff bulk, they will make the discounts even better. They will not be beat, and you won't beat their shipping. I mean, I'm just flat out telling you. And they have a wide selection. They don't have as many baits and stuff as most other places. It's more of a rod and reel place. They have a great trade-in program. So if you've got some stuff you've been using for a couple of years and you want to trade it in on something new, say there's a new reel that you've really been wanting to get your hands on, you can get some credit coming back that way. They've got all kinds of goodies going on over there too. But there's always sales. There's always money savings. These guys, they won't, if a rod breaks during shipping, they're not even going to argue about who broke what. They're going to send you another one and just have the other one returned, and they'll send it back. You don't have to deal with warranty stupid stuff. It's hard to beat, and that's why I deal with them. They're close to me here in Evansville, Indiana, and Kara says she didn't want to trade. She just wants more new, but I get that too. So you know what you need to do before we cut off tonight is you need to give an update on Team Wendell and where they're at in Knucklehead, and say give out the top 5, and I'll do the
Yeah,
same for Team Gramps, and we'll see how it's going.
we'll do it. Right now, Brian Slayton is in first, 93.25. Like I said, kind of a pseudo 93.25. He's probably at 96. I'm at 93, technically 0.25 behind him. Don Butler at 89.25 inches. Gramps, number 4, 89 inches. And with your week off of vacation this whole next week, I have a feeling you might be passing me because I'm not fishing that much. And then
We will
fifth
be.
place, Bill Alton with 88.5. So it's fun. I noticed there's like nobody in Florida on my particular. I think we have like 40 plus people. So not a lot of people down south that I know of. So a lot of people will follow me kind of up here in the north, as you can see by the inches, because I know
Yeah.
that these things can jump to like 113 inches when
Oh
people
yeah.
are
So
catching
leading
a
off
southern strand.
in Florida from Florida and Team Gramps in first place right now is Liz here in the chat with 1.75 inches.
Heck yeah. Congrats.
With a
That's
23,
amazing.
a 22, a 21, and
Jeez.
2 20s on the board.
Killing it.
Following up is John Long, who I think is in Virginia, who won Gramps last month with 107 inches. And then the next three, the top to round out the top 5, are all Indiana boys.
Wow.
Antoine Hayes, Sam Murray, and Jeremy Hickman rounding out 5th place in 97 inches. And then there's Darren right there in 8th place, ahead of me in 11th. So yeah, you're making a good showing with all the Florida sticks up there putting in the work. So
I love seeing the 110, 111, 112. That's just, maybe someday. But this is my first tournament. Do you know that? I've never fished a tournament in my entire life until the beginning of this month. So it's been kind of fun. It's been good.
Oh yeah, it's awesome too. And then I'll tell you what, November is just gonna be awesome when we get everybody together.
Oh,
We're not even gonna care about the
no.
the fishing. Just imagine how great the campfires, the gatherings, the sitting around in the chairs, just chilling. All the smack talking. It's gonna be a great weekend. I so can't wait for Veterans Day weekend.
It's fun. Over 4,000 fish are posted.
That's
4,000.
amazing.
That is
Yep.
absolutely crazy. And so we're just getting into this is like the second month for some, first month for others. And there's some who
Yep.
haven't even started yet. And so the team is
Oh yeah.
it's even growing. So
Yeah,
if
because
you
Larry
haven't signed
Melton
up,
Jr.
yeah,
and a bunch of them are starting later in the season too. So we're gonna have a bunch of fun YouTube peeps around and a bunch of people from our communities, and it's gonna be an awesome event. That is
it will.
100% for sure.
I got Larry Melton on the show coming up
There we go.
next month or so. So stick around for that. But it's gonna be great. Guys, we're a little bit over, well, we're not technically over time because I never put a time limit on this, but we're gonna close it down right now. Thank you so much. If you're from my channel and have not gone over to Fishing with Gramps and hit that subscribe button, please do so. We go back and forth on Instagram as well, just kind of busting each other's chops. It's a lot of fun.
We'll keep the stories live for sure. That's right. Every time one of us catches one. So here you
Thank
go,
you.
baby.
It has been on fire. Thank you guys so much for it. Next week's gonna be interesting. I have 4 or 5 people on, so it's gonna be a little bit different feel to the show. A bunch of listeners actually have asked to come on the show, and we're just gonna have a good old time. So, see you guys next week.
And for everybody who's wondering when my videos and live streams are going to start back up, 1st of June. I promise.
I believe when I see it. Thanks, everyone.
I know.
See you, mate.